restream.
Welcome to Stu and the Nunn, online radio show and podcast. It's on that.
Thanks, sir.
Policy, politics, and
Ready
social
Cup
issues.
Tuesday.
We're to give you an honest opinion, perspective. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspective, asking you, the listener, to interact with us on the show chat room, our Facebook page, on Twitter.
Yes, it's It's gotta get the topics in.
Our show sponsor.
An Enlisted 9 Fight Company.
And Enlisted 9 Fight Company.
Right there.
Enlisted 9 Fight Company.
And our honorable sponsor, our honorary sponsor.
Here for grunts. Hooah.
There we go.
Can I get a hooah?
Yeah.
Can I have a hooah?
You can have a hooah if you know what hooah means.
You don't know who it means,
Yeah.
well, it's just gonna happen. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn, episode 109. And here we are going to toast you tonight.
Yeah.
And episode 109 here on this January 30th of 2008.
So tonight we're broadcasting from the Southern Studio in Central Texas, just outside Austin, the great town, the best little town in Texas, Georgetown, my home. And we are excited to have Doug with us tonight from Gear for Grunts. Tonight's episode, we're going to kind of tune up a couple of current events, and then we're going to roll into the State of the Union address. And then stay tuned after the broadcast while you're watching the State of the Union. There'll be some live tweets. Post the tweets live, impromptu style, about some of the things that are talking about. But a lot has happened in the past week or so, or since the last time we talked. I was gone last week doing some stuff with Veteran Outdoors, and then spending some quality time with a lady.
Yeah. Some quality time with family, because that's what it's all about. Why? I'm being told they can't see you, Toby.
You look
fine.
great.
I shaved my head today, so perhaps
you
know, like
blended in with the white
I
behind
don't
you.
know.
Maybe? I don't know.
I shaved my head.
I did not. I did not shave my head.
Your head. But here, let me make sure and check. I don't know why. I think my parents need to zoom out. I think your TV is zoomed in too much.
Well, if it's on there,
it's on there.
It's there.
I think it is operator error.
I don't want to say headspace and timing of the operator.
You think it's the UX, the user experience?
Yeah,
I think. I think that house in Henderson, Tennessee needs some IT help. Call my brother.
$2.50 an hour.
Because you're busy.
Because you're busy. Yeah, that's it. But anyways, yeah. So I'm sorry.
No. So super excited about the last time the president spoke to Congress was just a joint session. Right. It wasn't the State of the Union. So this is his first State of the Union. So we'll get into that later on. A couple things I want to talk about. The media world. And when I say the media world, I'm not talking about just mainstream network media. I'm talking about overall movies, television have actually been doing a service, for the most part, to the military community. And then I'm going to talk about how some of our educators are failing the military. But, 12 Strong is out in the movie theaters. It's the story of ODA 595 and 584, which were the first two 12-man Operational Detachment Alpha Special Forces teams that went into Afghanistan immediately following September 11th. They were the story. It's the story of foreign indigenous link up and working with them and helping create that bond between the Northern Alliance that in the end, was able to defeat the Taliban. It's doing well in the theater.
Have you seen it yet?
I have not. It's getting great ratings.
Yes.
It is getting pushed forward in a very positive way, despite Michael Shannon, one of the stars of it, being an absolute ass clown. Yep. The dude's very anti-military, very anti. He's
Trump. In another movie right now too. There's another movie out right now.
Yeah, I don't actively seek him out just because I think he's just a jackwagon.
Yeah.
But the movie as a whole is doing well, and it's nice to see that. There's a lot of other movies out there right now that it's being pitted against, and it's doing well. It's nice to know that. The other thing I want to talk about is National Geographic have a series out right now called Chain of Command, which is phenomenal. I don't typically, like to give Nat Geo tons of credit, but they are doing it right. They are doing it right. I thought they did a good job with Combat Rescue. I thought it was a little Hollywooded, I thought it was a lot of pan flute. This is, coming from, Bad Voodoo, who had pan every turn.
Right.
Every time we go down the road, pan flute would play, and it's oh, what happens with pan flute soundtrack? Someone gets exploded. No, they're doing a really good job, and I really hope that for our non-military listeners and viewers, that you take the time, go watch it on demand on your on your cable provider. Go to Nat Geo's website and watch this series, because I think this is one of those series that helps bridge the gap in terms of understanding between the civilian population and the military population. And I think it's crucial that we help tell the story. And the way it does it is it shows, okay, decisions are made at this level, at this higher echelon level, and this is how it trickles down, and this is what it means to the guy on the ground. And you see all of that in this show. And it's not a movie, it's not scripted, it is this is the decision that was made in Washington, D.C. on policy with ISIS, and you'll see in the show the transition from the term ISIL to ISIS, which I think
going to happen with the administration change,
right? And they show
coincided, yeah.
But you see that the previous administration, the Obama administration, as part of this chain of command, and you see the current one. So when they started filming this, they didn't know that there'd be a change in leadership that. Obviously they knew that Obama wasn't coming back for the term, but they didn't know what the change in policy would be. And that's why I think it's such a wonderful demonstration. And I think it just really kind of shows I don't want to use layman terms, but in simpler terms, it kind of paints the picture. Okay, this is where the decision originates. This is why this decision originated. And this is its implementation down the line. And you see it in a kind of a neat way. And the reason I made the opening statement that I think the media in general is doing a good job of this is because that is what's lacking. What people focus in on is this Gregory Sausalito or whatever this jackwagon's name is.
California.
They focus in on this guy saying these things. And I want to take some moments to kind of address that. But the way we address it is important. And I think making cute videos is neat. It helps people's Instagram following and stuff like that. But that's not bridging the gap.
No.
And if you're in the military, that you're in there because it's harder to get into the military than it is to get into college.
Yeah, I want to bring up. We were talking about this last night, Doug and I were. People have this concept, this jackwagon out there, right? Saying there's this mindset. I think even many in one political slant versus another, and a lot of America or whatever fed something that they think the stereotype that the only ones going to the military are those that can't get to college, can't get a job, can't do anything. They got no. They have no choice but go to the military and be a victim because they aren't smart, educated, or wealthy enough. Which, in reality, if anyone's ever tried to go in the military, I bet we could stack up tens, if not 100,000 people that try to go in In fact, you look at a lot of these recent people that mass murderers and different people. Like I said, they were all like folks that were in basic training, got bounced or this or got bounced. Right? So even if they can make it into basic and get accepted and make it past MEPS, a lot of them can't even make it out of basic training. But many don't get past the first gate because most of America today, and this is not just today, it's been this way for a while, are out of shape. They have medical issues. They don't have the education. They can't even barely rub two sticks together. They have a criminal background. There's and it's minor medical stuff. We're not talking like they have a heart attack. We're talking about, just minor medical
flat
things.
feet. It's
asthma after their age of 13. I mean, all these stuff. Any kind of eye issue, you can't get in. Yeah. Right. There's people that want to come to the military. We have so many that come in today, much less earn high-level degrees, bachelor's and master's in the military, but they come in with those degrees because they are educated. But it's not because they don't have to. But there's this misnomer, stereotype out there, really a misnomer that says young people going to the military are just dumb, freaking idiots that drool themselves and can't make $5.
That gap you were talking about and how gap and
yeah, and I think like we need to start internally. So, and the reason I say I think we need to start internally is because we're 3 infantry.
Blue cord all the way. Yeah, blue cord all the way.
That's a beautiful thing, and a big shout out to Chance Land, my man Michael Land's son, who just got his blue cord last week.
Awesome.
Another generation of blue cords. Chance Land.
You probably don't have to drink yet, but
we'll drink for you.
He's a bigger boy than me. Yeah, it's a big kid. But here's the thing: even within the military, even within the Army itself, there's like this misunderstanding, and part of it's like the propaganda, if you will, and I'm using that term loosely, but I think it's appropriately used. That the infantry is the intellectual rejects,
killer.
Right? They're the guys that aren't smart enough to look at imagery. They're the guys that aren't smart enough to do this and do that. Where statistically, the IQ and the GT measurement scores, the general technical scoring measurement metrics that they use, is substantially higher in the infantry than in any other military operational specialty. Substantially higher. In addition to being any kind of specialty school, you have to have a 115 general technical score or higher, which the majority of the Army only require you to have like 60, 70. So almost twice the amount, to go into specialty schools. In addition, there are more enlisted degrees in the infantry than in any other military operational specialty, meaning people have gone to school, got a 4-year degree, or have earned a 4-year degree while in the infantry than in any other thing. So, like, when a guy comes out and says this, inside, we need to, say, yeah, we need to correct him, correct the American public on this. However, we need to correct ourselves first. We need to start internally and correct ourselves within the force. And by correcting ourselves within the force, we need to motivate those that aren't working towards education to do it.
Take advantage of the opportunity.
When I first came in, it was encouraged if you're going to get the senior NCO ranks, you at least had an associate.
You can't graduate certain academies without one.
But when I first came in, it was like you should, you'd probably have a good chance to make Sergeant Major Academy if you at least had an associate. That's kind of the way it was looked at. By the time my career progressed, about halfway through my career into the 90s, then it was like, oh, if you want to get mid-level NCO, mid-level management, essentially, you better have an associate. If you want to hit senior NCO, E78, you better have a bachelor's. And if you want to get onto the E9 level and be a sergeant major at a general officer billet and that kind of stuff, you better be working on your master's. Like that didn't become the goal. That became the standard in a matter of about 10 years. It was like, the military had the same thing. They went this revamping. It was like, and I used to tell people this all the time. My lieutenants, I'd have a lieutenant where I was at the platoon or company level, and that private, lieutenant. The only difference is some of them, especially in the 90s and 2000s, the only difference is this guy took a commission. This one just came in after graduate. Like, I have a number of enlisted that had full 4-year degrees coming in the Army. They're like, no, I just want to be a ground pounder.
Yeah. I had guys with better educations, my leaders.
Yeah.
Like better schools, better degrees, but like again, this is like a misconception, right?
Absolutely.
This is like this myth that and this Gregory Sasleto or whatever his name is, like I hope I get it wrong every single time because he doesn't deserve the credit.
Isn't it Gregory Shithole?
Something like that.
Shithole.
But the reason
he every time you hear shithole.
Yeah. Is that our drinking game for this?
For the State of the Union, I know we're coming up with something. I got some excerpts from the speech. It's already out, so we're going to come up with something. And we're going to come up with a drinking game.
But guys like this think this not because they're jackwagon. They think this because that's what we present. Like we present that we're not who we really are sometimes. And I'm not giving this guy a pass because he doesn't deserve it. I hope he loses his job. I hope he gets his face punched in. All the good things that like a good Christian should want.
Then I hope he finds Jesus.
He needs some. He really needs some. But what we do internally really promotes people believing this. And like that's because when you see these videos, this angry veteran video, it's a guy or a gal acting stupid, doing a rant, doing something like I'm gonna sit in my car and say like something about America and why you suck. Like, hey, instead of telling someone they suck, why don't you like bridge that gap? Why don't you be like, instead of I had to go to the VA recently. I'm going through the process of benefits with the VA. It's crazy, a decade after service, finally doing it. But I'm sitting in the waiting room and I'm looking around and everyone has a certain look. Right? Everyone dresses a certain way. Everyone's behaving a certain way. And part of me is like...
And part of that behaving is very polite. Very, very polite and courteous.
Yeah.
In an age gap that goes from mid to late 20s to the 80s, if not higher. Yeah.
But you step outside that facility and you see a different type of behavior. You go to the club and, you see a different behavior. You go to these... And what, is being portrayed as like this angry, like I've been wrong, victimized. It's like,
but then Tony, this is something we've talked about for years. You and I and Jimbo and Matt Burton and Nick and also in the Mill Blog kind of communities that have had voices have talked about trying to get rid of this victimization. Don't feel sorry for me. Like I gladly raised. I wasn't drafted.
You volunteered.
And not just once, and like saw what it was like and got out, and I stayed for 22, and you stayed for umpteen years. It's like, no, I wasn't a victim. I liked what I did. I don't, and unfortunately we have this. We cross this fine line of trying to show appreciation. When I say American general, of trying to show appreciation, but not too many times we cross over to that being. We're almost, we're spoiled.
Right? Yeah, no, it's no longer it goes from gratitude to sympathy.
Right.
And there's this razor thin line that goes there. It's like, how do I show that I'm grateful for your service? By overdoing it.
Right.
And I'm going to give you something extra.
And some people try to compensate. Maybe they belong to a certain political party or they believed a certain way for a while. So they try to go above and beyond and give a whole bunch to somebody or act like, or have a perception they give out, make it look like they do, which makes others going like,
well, where's mine?
Right, there's that, and of course we have the society now entitlements, but there's a big difference between. I remember back right when the wars first started in the thousands, that a lot of my young soldiers coming back, they would come to me and people are coming up thanking me, like I don't know what to say, and I tell them back then, I'm like, thank them for even taking a moment to recognize me. Don't be arrogant, don't be big-headed and all that stuff. And be like, you darn right,
That might be all you ever get, by the way. It might be your ticker tape parade to some dude at Starbucks saying, hey, thank you for your service.
But that's more than what you should expect.
Yes.
Because you raised your hand, you signed your name. I know anytime someone's like, hey, Toby, thank you for your service. And anyone that knows me knows, like, this is exactly what hey, I appreciate that. I always feel awkward when someone thanks me because I got paid. I had the time of my life, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So I appreciate you saying that, but like, I want you to know, like, I got paid,
but at least they're
and I had a great time.
No. You know, and like I said, that might be your ticker tape, but that might be the only thing you ever get your entire life.
Right.
Like, right. You shouldn't expect
it. You shouldn't expect it.
And actually, if you're going to expect anything, I would say you would expect going the other way. Some negative feedback.
You know what you should expect.
Right.
And that's the agreement that you made with the United States government that if you break it, you buy it. Right? Like you should expect that if damage is inflicted upon your body during the service of this nation, that it's going to get taken care of. It might not get fixed. It might not get replaced. It might not be as new.
Yeah.
But like you should expect that. You should expect that. You know, like if something happened to you, your family, you know, gets taken care of. The next generation gets blessed with education or something. You should expect it because that's an agreement. Like that's contractually enter into that agreement, right? But all that other stuff you shouldn't expect. No. And like you know, as a guy that works a lot in the nonprofit world, you know, like I have to explain that to guys sometimes. Hey man, like you're not owed this opportunity. Like I'd like to bless you with, or America would like to bless you with this opportunity.
Right.
You know, the purpose for that is for you to like think about how America appreciates you. How can you appreciate America?
Yeah.
How can you pay it forward? How can you do something?
Yep.
But
yeah, I mean, it's you know, it is it's people get burned out, right? We call it the wounded warrior burnout, right? Just see a commercial every 10 minutes. Christ, how many more? You know, people have a sense of they want to show appreciation. The funny thing though is, if they really knew what some veterans had went through, and I won't say all by any stretch, but as some that have went through, especially spent a year or a couple years in combat, if they knew the real horrors they went through, the people, they couldn't even fathom the amount of, I mean, to know what the people, not just went through there, what their families went through, things that caused with separation, people would fall over themselves trying to show the appreciation. But they get it. They're like, hey, you serve. They just know they've sacrificed something. Just think about it. If they really knew some of the stuff that these guys went through, they would feel, they wouldn't even know how to look someone in the face.
So you just said something. I want to kind of circle back on it because I think this is a really cool talking point. And I had this conversation with someone the other day, and they looked at me like I had something growing out of my foot. And that is, how do you feel about commercials, Wounded Warrior Project, DAV, which are the exact same commercial? They're not the same organization. They're the same commercial, though. And it's sandwiched, those commercials sandwich an SPCA commercial.
Yeah. Puppy dog.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you think that presents itself, right? So, and the reason why I bring this up, and then my point with the conversation with this other gentleman, that presents that veterans are no different than the stray dog that's been abandoned down the street.
Needs to be rescued.
Right. Now, we're not given the dignity and respect of being sandwiched with like an African child that's starving. Now, Sally Struthers was in the middle of that, you know, like
who seemed to always eat well.
Just saying,
just saying,
right? Like it would be a little bit different, right? Yeah. Like because you'd be like, well, at least you know I'm on par with another human,
with a human being.
I'm on par with like,
right?
And you know, I think that's a subtle little thing. Everyone's like, oh, but
the music in those veterans ones aren't as sad as the puppy dog. Music in that is like
no,
you gotta change the channel. I can't watch it.
I don't think Sarah McLachlan would like give up tune licensing, you know, to be in a thing. But the point I'm trying to make is like, look at how that signals. Look at how that presents. And that's one of the things I say internally, like leaders in these organizations to be like, hey, you know, like you want to, I get that, you know, we're trying to raise money. I get that we have this mission. Hey, put us up next to St. Jude's.
Right.
You know, like if we're going to be in the same commercial block, put us up with St. Jude's because no one can feel guilty for helping children, right? No one can feel guilty for, you know, helping
even
children.
That little kid in a wheelchair who's like the face of St.
He's got the blanket. He's pushing the blanket.
Oh, he's happy.
Saying
I
hi to his grandma.
I like that kid.
I love his grandma. Oh yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. But by the way, real quick, I want to digress. Have you seen the new St. Jude where the little girl is doing like push-ups.
Yeah.
And her legs are in the air, and she's doing elevated, no support push-ups.
Yeah, no.
She is solid,
No.
and she's like 3.5 feet tall.
I didn't want to bring it up because I have envy.
I mean, I'm just watching. I'm like,
I got push-up band.
Yeah.
I don't have light band.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Real quick, I want to say welcome. We got a lot of new viewers tonight. I want to say welcome to Lisa and Linda and so many other. And the Henderson, Tennessee confirmed quote operator.
Oh, awesome.
So we have the videos fixed. We can see Toby, big bald, beautiful head right here.
It's beautiful. It's even better.
Anyways, I'm sorry. I just want to real quick cutaway. We're back on topic.
But I think which kind of goes back to the internal statement of we need to present ourselves better. Like we have some phenomenal leaders. When you look at this administration, and I'm sure some of this is, and I think there's a beautiful tie into what's going to happen after the show tonight. When you look at the chief of staff, the White House chief of staff is an accomplished military officer with an unprecedented edge.
Right.
Let's look at the senior White House advisor, General H.R. McMaster.
Has at least some sort of advanced degree, if not two. I mean, all these guys you're mentioning, by the way.
He went to the University of Desert Storm. I'm just saying, Battle 73 East Hero.
Right. But, one of the things that I admire about H.R. McMaster more than anything else is that he had, I've heard people say audacity, but he had the ability to look at previous military failures. Now, these are the guys that he's still going to see in meetings.
Yeah, and report to.
That's right. Oh, the book he wrote.
Yeah. And
I didn't think he was ever going to get 1-star. I've known H.R. McMaster for a long time. I was surprised. He held it. Oh, he held it 06 for a long time.
But, he is a student of the game. He was like, hey, this is going to offend some people. This is going to rub some salt. But, hey, how can we do this better?
Right.
Well, exactly. Where did we go wrong?
What can we learn?
And
it was a big old AAR.
And knowing that we might be looking at that in the future. Fast forward 25 years, and here we are.
Right? Here we are.
10 years into something. When you look at cabinet members, Secretary of the Interior,
SEAL guy,
Navy SEAL, Navy SEAL,
and Eagle Scout,
Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
You look at Secretary of Energy, Rick Perry.
Yeah.
Former Air Force officer.
Also an Eagle Scout.
He's an Aggie too.
He is an Aggie. Gig him. And I'm in Austin, so probably like some lightning.
Southwest Texas State, go Bobcats.
My wife also a lot. When it was Southwest.
Yeah, amen, brother. Yeah, that's what my degree said.
Not Texas State.
They sold out. Yeah, they sold out at some point.
Yeah, but we have the talent, and one of the comments was they're not talented. They're the lowest of the. They're people that don't have. Look at the leadership of this country. Now, I dare pose that this gentleman is not a fan of the current leadership. So that's probably not a good argument for him. But if we went back, say one administration, and looked at the general officers that were involved in that administration, I dare say that General Petraeus, minus that minor little felony issue for letting someone look over his shoulder, might be one of the most brilliant minds of our time. Guy's a smart guy. No matter what you think of him, the guy's a smart guy. McChrystal, smart gentleman. And not only smart, driven. Driven to a point that guy probably could handle any workload given to any human being. I mean, amazing performer under yeah. Sure. And so to make the statement that, we lack talent, we lack ability, and that guys, this is our only option. Now, back in the day, yeah, judges gave people the opportunity. You could go to war, go to jail.
Exactly.
That was a viable option back in the day. But we're not there, and we haven't been there.
Almost 50. They got rid of the draft in 74. Right?
It's been a minute.
Right.
And, I would say that guy's not 54 years old. So, we haven't told the story properly that people like that make that assumption. Now, there's certain jackwagons that you're not going to convince one way or another.
They're going to believe whatever they hear in the media.
This guy's going to lose his job.
They're going to believe how movies present people.
Exactly.
They're going to believe the
stereotypes.
That's the reality. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like right now, the media's doing a good job. Like they're actually.
Back to your point.
They're doing a good job. Clint Eastwood has got a movie coming out about the train.
The terrorists, the Air Force guys.
And the guys that actually did it are doing it in the movie. Doing it in the movie. And I think that's, like, it's a little Audie Murphy-ish, but, as an Audie Murphy member.
But they did it.
But they did it. And so, like, I, help bridge that gap. Don't have, one of the things that, back in, I guess it was, 99 or 2000, whenever Black Hawk Down, I remember, meeting Arnett Eversman, and at Fort Benning, speaking at this thing. I was a young junior non-commissioned officer at the time, and he was a senior non-commissioned officer, sharing some knowledge. And I remember looking at the dude going man, you're a battle-hardened dude. Then you watch the movie, and you got Josh Hartnett, and you're like, not so much. It's not about what's sexy. It's what's real. And the cool thing about Black Hawk Down, for the most part, it was fairly accurate.
Yeah. Like most movies, they're not all 100%. They're fairly accurate.
But, when you look at Lone Survivor, arguably not as accurate as it should be.
Right. Well, Strong's got some issues. I'm not going to go into them here in the air.
No.
There's some issues going on there.
But sometimes, the story is good enough.
Right.
And
the bottom line is, when it goes to the big screen, it's about selling tickets.
Right. You can't just die hard. You have to die harder.
Yeah.
You can't just be fast. You have to be fast and
furious. You have to be furious. Very furious.
You can't just haul Coors Light across this country. You got to haul an elephant in there.
Yeah.
Throw back Smokey
and the Bandit Part 2.
Can't just do beer. You got to throw an elephant and put some sympathy in there.
Yeah. No,
you want sympathy over Coors Light.
But if we could tighten that up a little and tell our stories better, people wouldn't make those statements. Now, a guy, and the greater issue is why does this guy believe that this is okay to say? Well, he's a high school teacher. He's trying to motivate. He's trying to inspire his students to be better. He picked a demographic that was probably not the best demographic to make fun of. He picked a demographic that he was wrong about.
He could attack politicians and gotten away with it.
He could have.
He could have attacked a lot of. He could attack that couple that chained up their 12 kids.
Yeah, this whole conversation.
And probably would have been a hero to many.
Right. Yeah. But he attacked the wrong demographic, and the sad part is just we've come to a place where it's did he say and forgive me that they're never going to be a sponsor as a result of what I'm about to say, but I'm okay with that. He didn't attack the people that work at Taco Bell.
Oh man, I was working that deal too.
Or pick any random Burger King.
Burger?
Don't disrespect.
Okay.
Or the In-N-Out. Don't disrespect the In-N-Out.
But the reason I picked
Chick-fil-A.
The reason I picked Taco Bell is because I think statistically they have one of the highest turnovers in attrition in fast food, and they also have one of the worst food rating reputations. Yeah. Now they have the best, the best price points.
Oh yeah, if you're a poor Joe, and you go off base and you want some cheap fast food and not eat in the mess hall, Taco Bell is your friend.
But if you attack somebody that is trying to make a career in fast food, you are, a bigot, or most likely, since I said Taco Bell, a racist.
Absolutely.
You're all these things. You can't attack it, but you should be trying to inspire people to be more. My brother, his first job was at McDonald's. My first job was not.
Dude, I worked at McDonald's.
But my brother's first job was McDonald's, and my brother and I just had this conversation, and it's man, I wish my kids would, like if I could get my kids a job at Chick-fil-A, man, I might pay Chick-fil-A to hire them just because the way they teach people to work,
yes. The ethic, work ethic.
Whataburger, same, In-N-Out, a lot of these companies, they do wonderful things, but their goal isn't to have you for 20 years.
It's exactly right.
Their goal is to prepare you to be a viable employee in someone else's workforce. And, if you're going to attack somebody and you're going to try and inspire someone to be better than something, start there.
Yeah.
Say, let's stop making first job, part-time jobs a viable career field.
That's why they need $15.
Let's not make fun of a guy.
You like that? Yeah, right across. Man.
Like let's not make fun of a demographic that can serve 20 to 30 years, make an impact on national defense, national security. That improve the economy. Let's not attack that demographic. If you want to be a high school teacher, and I get it, I'm not mad at this dude, for the reason. I don't like what he said, and I don't like who he targeted, but he was trying to inspire his students to do something better, right? And he was that was the whole purpose of the conversation, right? It's hey, you shouldn't look up to that. You should look up to this. What he should be saying is you shouldn't be looking at a temporary job. You should be looking at a career field. And Mike Rowe, I like Mike Rowe. One, because you have no idea what his politics are, and he'll never tell you. But what he will do is tell you where we need to put people in jobs.
Right.
We need to fill trades. We have a teenage son right now that needs to learn a trade. And is excited to maybe that be his thing versus. And I'm dude, that's awesome. Inspire people to have a career. Inspire people to do better, but don't belittle a demographic because you don't understand. He chose unwisely.
Yeah.
He picked the silver cup. He didn't pick the wooden cup.
Oh, that's Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade, 1989.
So we're gonna jump topics here. We've been on this one for almost 40 minutes. For the most part, we jumped off a little bit here and there. We want to talk about the State of the Union a little bit. Before we get there, we do have a question in from the chat on Facebook because you are watching us. By the way, if you tuned in just now, you're watching Stu and the Nunn Show. We got a good friend Doug here from Gear for Grunts. You can catch us, of course, on StuandTheNunn.com. Find all of our streaming outlets on there. Spreaker, YouTube, Periscope, Facebook Live, and Twitch. So we've had a lot of people joining. We've had a lot of listeners on. But we have a question from Linda, who's a new viewer, I believe. And she asked, what do we feel the number one issue for veterans is? So I'm going to start with you, and then we'll roll over. So, actually, no, you've been talking a lot. I'll give you a break.
Talking a lot. The number one issue for veterans,
as a
I think we kind of touched on it. To me, and I've experienced this with. I'm speaking for myself because there's just this gap, this ignorance, and I think it's attributed to what this guy said to that kid who's wanting to know what the USMC teacher guy. I think there's just such an ignorance because so few people serve now. So, what is it, 7% of the population or something? You got this enclave, almost like a clique, for lack of a better term. So small. The only people know about it who've been involved in it directly or as a spouse or kid or whatever. And you put that against the rest of society, they just do not understand. So a lot of this, everything we've been talking about is kind of related to this. Like when you say, oh, thank you for your service. That person, most of the time, is probably generally trying to go, yeah, I don't really understand anything of what you did. I can't even imagine, because literally everyone, they can't imagine, guys, what they just, in our sheltered first world, advanced 3 meals a day. I don't suffer for anything. I have no idea what you guys. And
so you think it's just that lack of understanding?
I think that just filters down into everything. Any other, a lot of these other problems can be traced back. That is sort of the mothership or the genesis of it. Just so few people serving, they just don't understand it. And we're talking about the good media lately, but there's a lot of bad media that people have been influenced by. And again, seeing it from my own family, stuff I heard from relatives about me. assumptions about me that are 180 degrees out of phase. It's unbelievable, and they should know better because
they know you.
I've been around for decades,
and they know you.
They know me.
Yeah.
But yet they still.
But they still have. Well, maybe they go. Well, that's possible. Doug could freak out at any moment. I don't know. I don't know what the government did. I don't know what they think, but it's
they fed you,
dead wrong.
Give you great life experiences. They give you stuff you'll never. People pay top dollar to do at a gaming center.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think?
I think the biggest issue that facing veterans today, it's kind of something we've already hit on. There's a reason why we hit on it because I think it's important. Is the victimization mentality? It's not so much the ignorance of it; it's the victimization mentality because it makes people. There's a chunk of our population that want to show appreciation. There's a chunk that want to just be. They don't want a bad mouth. They know not everyone in the military is. Not everyone's a hero by any stretch. Not everyone is perfect. Not everyone's good. We can start with a list of names. We can start with Manning. We can work our way back, right?
Well, there's a UCJ, right?
So just because you served, just because you have a job, does not put you above the law. So never, and some try to either act that way, and others from the outside look at people and think, oh, they think they are, right? There's no job that makes a man. Look at priests, right? Nothing makes you perfect. But I think it's the victimization that people either on the outside either have jealousy, they have misunderstanding, or they just they feel so compelled by guilt. You know how many guys I run into, good friends of mine, ever served, and now with the wars over the last 17 years, are like, man, I wish I was. I don't feel like you had to. It wasn't for everything. And trust me, we don't want everybody. There's a reason why we're selective.
Amen.
There's a reason why we don't have a draft. Not everyone's cut out for the military. Mentally, physically, anything.
Emotionally, spiritually.
They're not meant to it. There's a lot of people in the military now that should not be in. And there's also a lot of people that got booted during drawdowns that should have stayed
Still should be in.
But they were some bar set that someone felt was the right bar. Oh, you have too many tattoos, this and that. Let out. But there's someone else that has a lot worse issues that shouldn't be in. But I think it's all that. There's guilt, there's jealousy, there's all this kind of stuff. That people look at us as victims. We don't want to be victims. Yeah, we appreciate 10% off on a meal. Sure, we appreciate 10% off at Lowe's, but I don't expect it. And if I don't get it, I don't freak out over it. Like, wow, who doesn't want to save money? Who doesn't want to save money? Who doesn't want to, be?
But you don't ask for it.
But I don't look to be the front of the parade every time, right? I don't look to make sure that I cash in on that every time. Again, I got paid. I got a paycheck. That was the government side of it. They took care of me. They fed me. They clothed me. They did all that stuff. I got in good shape. Got to do some awesome stuff. Got to do things that 99.9% of America will never do. To drive vehicles and do things and shoot things and stuff.
Dude. And it makes you, to me, and if it trickle down, just day jobs, people ditching them.
Puts in perspective.
What are you
one thing I tell you talked about earlier at the start of this about the infantry soldier and stuff, and how people think we're the bottom of the bottom and you can't get a job. We're the lowest, we're the dumbest people. When you think about an infantryman doing things like shoot, move, communicate, controlling 3 or 4 or more, we'll keep the team level. Say 4 other
human beings
moving in a high stress, chaotic, deadly space. He's guiding them and engaging targets himself, doing something that's against all of our DNA, killing another human while being shot at, and communicating and calling in mortar rounds or artillery or whatever, or aircraft, moving at blistering speeds, putting it accurately on top of other people, saving a life, calling for extraction, boarding a helicopter, all stuff, and that's an E4 on one mission.
Against other humans that are trying to do the exact same thing.
And they come out of that, and they go to work. They go to work in the service bay of a GM dealership, or they go to work driving a UPS truck, or they go to work in an office, and they do this, and they look at all that because I know it was my way when I got out of active military. I looked at it like, this ain't stressful.
Yeah, this is not.
I'm going to the coffee room in khakis and talking to people, and I'm not covered in poison ivy with an 80-pound ruck on my back at JRTC in the swamp. I'm like, that's even peacetime. This isn't stressful. I mean, there's so many interpersonal communication, task management, issue, conflict resolution. All of these skills that majority of the civilian public have to go to pay thousands of dollars to go to schools and seminars.
Like someone like us.
Tell them. Yeah. Amen. That's exactly right.
Echelon front. Like Jocko's making millions telling people like what every private already knows. Like he just packages it to a different demographic.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Right.
Well, that's what it's a victimization. Very long answer. I'm sorry.
No, I think both your points are great, but I think the greatest problem facing the veteran community is when I say veteran community, I mean people post service, is that because they're past their service, they no longer have noble purpose. And
talked about this before.
And we have a VA system, a Veterans Administration system that is just the worst. It is busted. It is everything that a man of action or a person of action despise. Like when you go to the dentist, you expect a certain thing. You expect to be have your teeth evaluated and told, okay, this is good, this is bad, and this is our course of action.
Corrective action. Yep.
And we're doing it. Like that's what you expect. When you go to the Veterans Administration, that's not what you get. What you get is a lot of bureaucracy. It's the largest institution within the United States. And I think that leads to a lot of the biggest problems. Like we have depending who you talk to and which study you read, double digits committing suicide daily. And, do I think the VA can solve that? Absolutely not. But I think what the VA can solve is they can reduce that number. They can reduce that number by providing, timely services. They can reduce that number by doing different things. You don't see people going down to Dell and shooting themselves in the parking lot because HR didn't solve the problem.
Or their computer didn't get fixed.
Right. And I'm using Dell, which is a wonderful company. I'm just using them because they're locally,
They would be great. They would be great advertising.
Sponsor.
Yeah,
great sponsor.
But I really think the greatest problem facing the veteran community is the Veteran Administration, and I think it needs radical change. I think it needs radical realignment. I think it needs reconfiguring. I think it can be done without breaking any promises.
Right.
I think it can be done. I think it needs to be audited. A lot of people get mad at me for saying this, but it needs to be audited. People,
but the president signed in this Veteran VA Accountability Act. Has it felt this move fast enough? Or
is it trickled down and made? Is it like?
No,
I'm just wondering.
I think he's making great steps, but I'll be honest with you. I think what needs to happen to the VA is they're okay, you have a year of left of what you are, and in that year we're going to come up with what you're going to be, and expect that in the next year this is going to be different.
Right.
And all these leaders that are in there that have got tenure and that are they need to be gone. Get rid of them. Get them off the tip. Sorry for the offense, but get rid of them.
Right.
Bring in people that want to run it like a business, that want to run it like a hospital. Bring in medical practitioners that want to be there because they care about medicine.
Yes.
Privatize parts of it. I know, vote for vets right now are probably flipping over because I said privatize. I know IVA are mad because I'm saying privatize, but privatize some of it.
But we're not fans of either one of those organizations, so we don't really care.
Screw them both.
But it sounds like everything you just said about take a step back and look at the entire government complex, whether it's the FBI, DOD.
The largest institution is the VA.
And for those that want to government-run healthcare, just look at the VA.
Look at what
the VA is your view into the future. So for those that wanted government-run healthcare, you don't even have to. You don't have to go to Canada. You don't have to go look at UK.
Absolutely not.
Go
just
to Temple.
Look at the VA.
Yeah, the VA, wherever the closest.
Go to your local VA.
And go hang out.
and go sit in
a waiting room.
Just look at the news stories.
Yeah.
11 months on waiting list. Guys dying waiting to get in to see stuff. Doctors and medical staff forging documents to make it look like the wait lines aren't as long, just keeping them going and going and going. Look at them. There's no shortage.
If they spent the time correcting the problem than hiding the
Yes.
hiding the
They
problem.
took
And that's what I say. Like, I think the
Yes.
greatest challenge that we have is that, and I really hope to hear some of that on the State of the Union. I know we're probably going to hear about immigration. You know, I'm excited about that because, you know, I myself and going through the process.
You're a dreamer.
You know, like,
I think we're going to hear about the economy, and tax cuts,
Probably hear about like building up the
jobs,
military or something.
and investment into this country.
I'm curious what people are going to say. Like, to, you know, like usually there's like the rebuttal.
Yeah,
You know, like there's the refutes. Like, so like, how are you gonna rebut the economy? Like, explain to me how you're gonna be like, well, the Dow Jones really isn't that good.
There's three rebuttals.
There's going to be
tonight.
3 rebuttals.
You have Bernie Sanders. How ironic is that, right? You have Joseph Kennedy III, right? And I don't know what networks they're on, but Maxine Waters is on BET, which I guess they're stopping the videos.
Like, how is she even allowed a microphone?
I don't even know how. But
what channel is she going to be on?
BET.
Oh, that explains it because they're not like a reputable.
I think
source,
she
right?
beat out the Randy Macho Man Savage looking one from Florida with a cowboy
With
hat.
a cowboy hat.
Well, yeah. How can you take any network seriously that is based on racism?
Right.
Like,
Amen, brother.
you know, like
I
I wouldn't give any credence to the white nationalist channel either.
Exactly right.
So, anyways, there's 3 responses tonight. But what are they going to say? They're going to talk about $1,000 crumbs. What talking points can they hit on to say that's going to be bad? You have all these companies that are investing, that are giving their people stock, that are bringing jobs back. But don't even count a year ago.
Apple
started with Carrier, and it's just been
you're right.
ever
That's
since.
right. Carrier
You have a
was like
stock market that has broke 70 something records. Right? It broke 22, then 23, then 24, then 25. 12 days later, 26,000 on the stock market. Your 401k is a 501k, and it's about to be a 601k. Right? It's growing all over. The regulations cut left and right. We're going to hear about that. Clean coal happening. Coal mines starting back up. We're going to hear about that. You know, there's going to be.
We're going to hear the opposite of everything you just said. That's their argument. Oh, coal is bad.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, wealth isn't being.
ISIS is about wiped out.
Yeah. No, I mean, like,
there's no more people being buried or burned alive in cages.
I know, like, they're probably going to bring up, I read these talking points on solar energy. You know, there's a new tariff on, solar panels coming from Mexico.
And washing machines.
Yeah, people are like, well, that's horrible, and that's going to make it a little more expensive. No, it's not making it more expensive. It's making it American.
Why don't you just buy American one?
Buy an American one.
Right.
Don't pay the tariff.
Right.
Amen.
Countries all over the world tariff our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We tariff their stuff. Yeah. This is not a new concept.
Yeah. Right.
It's been happening since the dawn of, hey, I'm going to trade you something from my country.
Civilized nations and stuff.
But but there's going to be a lot of things. I think, for the drinking games, give a quick word for the drinking game.
No,
for what Trump's going to say, or the rebuttals?
No, Trump. What President Trump's going to say? Mine's America. Anytime he says America, you're going to be toast.
I'm going to say military. I'm going to say military at least half a dozen times.
I'm just going to say America. Just the word America.
I want to
make America great again.
I want to hear
make
victory.
America strong.
I want to hear the word.
I'd love to drink on victory.
I want to hear the word victory. Not ending a war, not getting down. I want to hear not victory strategy.
Respectful, what do they call, honorable withdrawal or something?
I want to hear.
I think I'll drink on every time I hear the word fantastic.
I think he's going to say something about extinguishing ISIS from the face of the earth. That's the same as victory, right? I think that's like
that roughly translates in Canadian to victory.
Oh,
that's defeat in detail in army speak.
Yes, that's it. So,
although I will say, America is so awesome.
It is, isn't it?
That while we do have embarrassing Black Friday, melees,
yes,
we have never rioted over.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
No.
While
we enjoy it,
I thought that was a story. I thought that was a story on the Onion.
We'll just get it delivered via Amazon.
Even the Australians
dropped on my doorstep.
Even our brothers down under in Australia don't riot over Vegemite.
No, which is
nasty.
Which is referenced in a Men at Work song from 1982.
Yeah, but anyway.
All right. So what are the words? Because we're gonna have to wrap.
So I'm saying America. You're saying
What did I say?
Victory.
I said military and victory.
Yeah,
I probably only hear military. I know.
What is yours?
Fantastic.
Ooh, they're not gonna. Okay, so depending on which word you go with, you're probably gonna get a good little buzz. I get
if he uses them all in a single sentence,
you got to drink the whole thing.
Then you got to like do 2 shots.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's the thing. I think you hit up a good point. I don't know what the rebuttals can possibly be. I don't know how Maxine Waters is going to fact check it.
Don't worry, they'll find something to say.
But they won't fact check it.
No, but she says she's going to. Which
right.
Well, who's her fact checkers?
Exactly.
Right.
But the thing is, here's what I know. I can predict this. The MSNBC, NBC, and probably ABC and CNN will rip it apart and take anything and twist it in any way they can. Will Fox treat it well? They'll probably treat it honestly, even though they're both sides. There's probably some things that they'll question his accuracy on. I have no doubt. They'll question if he was 100% factual on it. But there's no doubt that tomorrow morning, Morning Joe and the CNN blowhards and all them are going to capture on 1 or 2 words or a couple phrases or some action that happens. Like if someone gets disrespectful, which I hope they don't, just like they should, just like they shouldn't have done for President Obama.
Right, that's right.
But if someone says something,
you're a liar. You lie.
Yeah, if someone says something, he'll turn and probably say, "Get him out of
here." Yeah. No, what I think would be the coolest thing. I know we're running short on time. What I think would be the coolest thing is if he read
the memo.
No, if he read part of Clinton's immigration speech and then read part of Obama's speech.
Oh, the one that they made the video.
Right, and then it was just like he read it out,
and then say, "Oh, by the way."
Oh, and then be like, "Not my words."
Yeah.
But
so
I'm gonna just like Jerusalem. I'm gonna deliver on your promises because,
that's a nice one.
Yeah. Because that's what all these people have said these things in the past. Like Schumer. Like Schumer's like, "Oh, we gotta stop these immigrants. We gotta do all this. We gotta do that." Now he's like, "The greatest people." Like, dude, you're so full of shit. Like, he should just read other presidents' statements, other politicians' statements that he is just delivering on. He's not the bad guy.
Right. He's just executing.
He's just executing.
Yeah.
Just like
Jerusalem is a great example. Yeah. It's it is it's going to be an interesting one tonight. There was talk earlier about was he going to come out with the memo, all that stuff. Doug, we're talking about earlier. I think he's going to let it sit for 2 days because he didn't. I knew he would come out today. He didn't want it to trump the speech.
He didn't want it to
put or pun intended. Tomorrow there'll be too much buzz about the speech, so I think it's going to be Thursday, and then he's going to, or he'll wait Friday till the last day, and then he's going to sit and release. What are your thoughts?
I agree that he'll do that. But the funniest thing is, like, I watched a thing earlier where I'm not even sure who it was, went around NYU and a couple other schools and asked kids last week what they thought of the State of the Union and how many kids thought it had happened and were like, "Oh, his comments
they're
are
commenting
racist."
on it.
Yeah, and it's like he hasn't even done it yet.
Yeah,
so it's like,
and these are the smartest people in the nation.
Yeah. Those people are eating laundry detergent too.
Yeah,
right.
Those are
laundry detergent
and filming themselves
hey
mom, look how proud I am.
Yeah, to get to
I've graduated from cinnamon to Tide Pods.
Yeah, they
$60,000 a year of school, by the way. I think.
Yeah,
they lived on campus. And
so
stuff. Yeah,
to get their 15 seconds of fame, I mean, they're promoting Darwinism.
Yeah.
Either way, hey, everyone, want to thank you. We're running down on time. Got a minute or 2 left. You've been watching Stu and the Nunn. And that's Nunn, Stu, and our good friend Doug over here from Gear for Grunts. You can check us out on stewandthenunn.com. You can follow Toby at Toby Nunn, myself at Boohammer. That's how you pronounce it, Boohammer. And a lot of people mess that up.
It's not Bowhammer?
No, it's not Bowhammer. And at Gear for Grunts, that's with the number 4. Also on. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday night.
Yeah.
8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, whatever the rest of the time zones are. And we're always here. A lot of times we go over an hour, but tonight we got the big man coming on. We're excited to see what he says and interested to see what he's putting out there and give us his reflection on what the State of the Union. So be sure and join us next Tuesday, 8 o'clock, Stu and the Nunn. Like our page. Let your friends know. Let your family know. Let your people that aren't your friends. We don't care. And make sure you catch us on all of our media outlets. That's all I got.
All right, you're gone next week. You'll be in Canada.
I'll be in Canada next
All
week.
right.
Wow,
Well, while you're in
interesting.
Canada and I'm not, I will hold down.
If I can, I
American
may
side.
call in.
All right.
I may call in and give you a American in Canada to the Canadian, Canadian American in America.
Some feedback.
Yeah, the world's
some
coming.
observations.
As long as you call in eating poutine, I will.
Oh, I love me some poutine.
All right. Special shout out to Fire and Ice Pizza that are making a poutine.
Yes, it was
pizza
delicious.
For the Olympics for USA versus Canada. We have a watch party going down there. But big shout out to Fire and Ice Pizza for helping us out with some food tonight. So
Excellent.
we
It was
appreciate
excellent,
that.
by the way.
Yes, everyone have a great night, and we'll
God
see
bless.
you all next week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, let's set us
Are we off video?
No, we're still on.
So I can do some pelvic thrusts?
Yeah, there we go. We're on video.
I was going to say I didn't have a chance, Toby, because I'm like, are we done with that? I was going to...
Silence it. It's picking us up.
See you next Tuesday. Spreaker. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors.
Hey, we gotta watch it.
Publishing and like our Facebook page.
That's them. Come check.
You're pointing to my crotch there for a minute. I don't know what you're pointing at there. I was like, what?